Welcome to the Infuse Compassion podcast, hosted by me, Amy Quisenberry.
And me, Mark Carpenter.
We are on a mission to make this world a kinder place for us all by bringing healthier human connection to communities, families, and organizations of all types and sizes.
Our goal is to create stronger relationships, more inspired teams, increased trust, and improved results.
So let's get started with more ways to infuse compassion into our world. Welcome back to the Infuse Compassion podcast. I have to tell you, last week we met with possibly, I referred to her as the guest that had the most vitality out of any other guest that we'd ever had on. I called her Vitamin N for Vitamin Nancy. Nancy Griffen is who we had on. And what a dynamo, what a firecracker, what a gift to the world, this woman. And Mark, listen, I just have to ask you, clearly you know how I feel about Nancy, but how do you feel about Nancy, Mark?
Well, I was so, like you, I was so impressed with the energies that she brought. And Nancy's around my age, so she's no spring chicken. Let's just say it that way. But she brings so much positivity out there, and I loved what she was bringing. And I loved the focus that she had on helping women who are in achievement mode in the kind of the later area of their life. And I loved how she defined achievement not as a place to get to, but as a journey that they're on. Mm-hmm. That achievement or accomplished women is the way she put it. Mm-hmm. Accomplished women are those who have achieved a lot, but are looking to achieve more. Mm-hmm. And it's not necessarily, I need to make more money. I need to create more companies, but it's, I need to bring this to the world. A lot of her focus is on women with wealth who are doing philanthropic work. And that's part of that accomplished woman, is that they want to accomplish more with the goodness that they can bring into the world. And so I love the work that she's doing to help make that happen.
Yeah, she just, I mentioned it on the last episode with her, that she doesn't wait for people to knock on her door. She sought us out. She emailed us and said, I'd like to be a guest on your podcast. Yes, absolutely. And so much of who she is today, she credits with her mom. Yeah. And that her mom, after she had raised the 3 previous kids, right? She was the youngest, and, a little whoops, surprise, right? She got to watch her mom when her mom was thinking she was done raising kids and really kind of wanting to start to invest in herself. And her mom was aware, I want to make my own money. I want to invest in myself. I have things that I want to put into the world more than raising wonderful kids. And that's a jam business, like homemade jam. And it's just such a beautiful story of her watching her mom come into this full-blown empowerment that she then later came to label it as primetime women. And primetime women we are postmenopausal, I say we because I'm one of them, postmenopausal women, raise their kids. Maybe they chose not to have kids, but if they had kids, they've raised their kids. They've really put a bulk of their life into their work. And now they're like, okay, what's next? I'm not done yet.
Yeah.
There's more.
And the I'm not done yet is I want to put more good into the world. Mm-hmm. I want to put more good out there. I want to mention, because you talked about the jam business that her mom had. We didn't really talk about that on that episode. Mm-hmm. And so I just want to encourage listeners. There's a great story on Nancy's website. And so go to the links in the show notes, go to her website and read that story about her mom's jam business, because it really is an inspiring story about taking that next step out there. And I don't want to spoil the ending because it has kind of a nice ending on it too. But read it all the way through, because it's a great story about what it means, not just to her individually, but to the legacy that she leaves behind when she stepped out there and became one of those primetime women that you just mentioned.
Yeah, thank you for that. I'm glad you brought that in. What else? What else jumped out at you?
Yeah, I loved the point that she made that women who are seeking to do more are often struggling because they're trying to do it themselves.
Mm,
They've already accomplished a lot, and if they're struggling with that next step, with that next level up, it's often because they're trying to do it all themselves, and they aren't looking for, who do I need to help me along this journey? And that resonated with me because I see it a lot. And I see it a lot with both genders, to be honest with you. It's when people are trying to achieve, we get stuck often because we're not bringing in the right help.
mm-hmm.
And so that's a great question, I think, that we can ask. And that's part of self-compassion too, is recognizing I cannot do this all myself. So who do I need to help me in these specific areas to accomplish what I'm trying to accomplish? And the tendency is we say, no, I can do it. And then we start sacrificing our health and our well-being as we're trying to do what we feel like we've been put on the earth to do. And that's imbalanced. And so we've got to manage our own health by bringing in the help that we need to accomplish those goals.
Yes. And she talked about the importance of researching to ensure this is the person is a reputable and credible resource. It's not just anybody, but this is somebody that is licensed, they're accredited, or whatever the wording happens to be for that. And there was a point where she talked about, I gave the example of talk to the single parent, two young ones at home, working three jobs. How are they finding this balance of health and wellness, health, wealth, and wellness? And she said, that person, what I hear in the scenario you've built out is that there's a struggle that they're going through, right? And that's kind of what led to, they don't have to do this alone.
Yeah.
But I liked how she went to, it's not always our family that we want to go to, because they may get worried about us and stop us from making the progress that we need to make. You go to who you think is best to go to, but to really think, who are the professionals? What did she say? What's the example that she said? I'm not going to have, oh, she was funny. Oh, Mark, do you remember what she said?
I'm not remembering the specific example that you're talking about.
Oh, she gave this example like, I'm not going to have so and so do my, oh gosh. Well, guess what, folks? You're going to hear it when you listen.
Well,
um,
along those same lines, though, there was a great piece of advice that she gave, that as you're talking to people who can help you and support you along that path, if it's not a right fit, and the example she gave was with a certified financial planner, that if you find somebody, you feel like, okay, maybe it's this person, as you interview them, they say, sorry, I only take people at a certain wealth area. Don't just give up on that, but ask, who do you think might be a good fit for my situation?
mhm.
Because I think a lot of times we don't think of that one little simple add-on question, which they very likely know people that would be a good fit. And the same, I think, would be true with health advisors. If
Yeah.
somebody's not the right fit for you, ask them, who do you think would be a good fit for me and my situation. And that stuck out to me because that's something I don't think of doing. But I
Mm-hmm.
think it's a good practice to recognize that the people within those industries that can help us, they know each other. And so they can likely direct us to somebody who can be a good fit for our particular situation.
And when she was talking about that, Mark, she talked about when you hit that roadblock, if that person says no, push forward. Be your own agent, be your own advocate. Now, I say this because this isn't something that Nancy just adopted now, right? When she tells her Procter and Gamble story, she talks about the fact that she was not promoted because she found out later that she had kids. So she wanted to do the international work, and somebody else made the decision on her behalf that she wasn't qualified or whatever the scenario, whatever the words that they used. But people had been asking for Nancy that were out of country, and no, no, no. Wow. And
Yeah.
so she went and she's like, yeah, I'm not going to stop here. Just because you guys think I can't doesn't mean I'm going to do this. And so she went out on her own, and I loved that she said step forward, step up, step out. That's her thing. She wants to help women step forward, step up, and step out. But where she focused was women in not for profit healthcare. And this was, I'm a woman, right? I want to be focused in areas where there's giving that happens. And health is so important to me because health, health, health is, she's so aware that you're nothing without your health.
Yeah.
If you don't have your health, nothing else is possible, or so much is a struggle without it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I want to go back to that story that you just repeated of hers, where the leader had made the decision for her
Mm,
that because of her situation she couldn't do it. Because I think there's a great, it's a little bit of a sidebar, but there's a great leadership lesson in there for those of us in leadership positions. Do not assume for people what's going to be best on their growth path or their life path. You want to have that conversation. That story struck a chord with me because I, I thought that's just weak leadership to not say, "Hey, we've got this opportunity. I'm a little concerned about whether your family situation would make that accessible for you or not. But let's have the conversation here
mm.
and have the conversation with somebody rather than assuming what their answer is going to be." Um, I think the company lost a good person
Mhm.
by that leader making an assumption about what their growth path was. And so, as leaders, have those conversations with your people to see where they can add value and to see what their aspirations are.
I'm really glad you went back and spotlighted this, Mark, because I know from my own experience, this happens. The uncomfortableness of having a conversation, the fear of having a conversation, the whatever reason to not have the conversation. And people leave,
Yeah,
people quiet quit, people there's all sorts of things that at the end up hurting your business because you're not taking the time to have the intentional conversations to really do what we always say, which is see your team members, really see them, understand. Did anybody at any time have a conversation with Nancy and say, what are your career aspirations? I'm going to guess no.
yeah,
Based on what we heard, I'm going to guess nobody involved her in the conversation. But regardless of all that, right? Yes, warning for leaders, and an invite, a welcome mat, if you will, to do better, right? But here's what I love. She was like, I don't have to put up with this.
yeah,
I can choose more, better, different. And I can go be my own agent, be the advocate. I'm going to advocate for myself. And this to me, I've seen this with health, and I'm even though we didn't talk about it with her, I can't emphasize enough, everybody, if you are not your own biggest advocate in your health journey, please, if you're going to change anything, change that. Have your notepad, have those questions. Don't assume that the doctor's going to know what you're going to talk about. Go in there ready, go in there informed, and take notes. I don't know, is it? I was just going to say something and I thought, wait, are we allowed to do that? Can we record doctors?
I'm chuckling because I have a doctor who records himself all the time.
Yes, afterward,
He,
right?
no,
After.
actually during.
Oh,
A lot of
okay.
times he'll do it during the conversation. He won't record what I'm saying, but he'll record what he's saying to me.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
actually, I think that's a really good practice
Yeah.
because then he doesn't have to remember what did I say to this patient versus that patient.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but I think you can record with permission.
Wait, yeah.
You'll
Okay.
always want to do that with permission because we've done that before too. Um, I did that when my wife had a medical procedure, and I wanted to make sure that I was capturing the
Mhm.
right follow up instructions because I knew she was coming out of anesthesia
Yeah.
when the doctor was giving the instructions, and so I didn't want to trust my memory. And
Mhm.
so I just asked him if I could record it, and he said fine. And so I recorded what he was saying, so that then I could go back and verify. Yes, this is what he said is the follow up.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. I love that. And here's the other thing that I love about that story, your story, is not only is that an individual being the advocate for themselves, but in this story, the people that you love the most, how are you helping to support them in times when they can't advocate for themselves, right? It's really, I mean, she's going under a procedure. You as her life partner, of course it's going to be you,
Yeah.
right? And how we're showing up for the people around us in the times that they need us. I love that, Mark.
Well, and let's be real. Memories aren't great. We forget things. And especially when it's like medical terminology,
Yeah.
I don't want to trust myself to catch that. And so, there's some practical side to that as well.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the other thing that Nancy said that stood out to me was that tip that she gave at the end about give more than you take.
Ooh.
And that's not always about financial. Now she works with a lot of people that are in more higher wealth categories who are into philanthropic giving, and so that's part of what she's talking about. But it's also giving of ourselves in simple ways to the people around us. Now, you gave a little shudder when I brought that up, and so I like to get your reaction on that too, Amy.
I There is such joy in giving. When we were off camera, when it was us, we were talking about just the simplicity of smiling. The simplicity of smiling, but what you get as a result. We got such a beautiful laugh from Nancy, the two of you sharing this experience of smiling big at somebody that doesn't know them, and they're like, "Do I know that person?" Because you're
And I
looking
actually think
at
we
them.
recorded that. I think that was that was we were still on recording
Oh,
at
were
the
we
end of the
still
episode.
on? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you. But where my mind went to when I shivered was, and I shared this with you when we met, that this morning, um, the care packages that Freddie and I are doing. You know, so for those that don't know, my husband and I, for Thanksgiving, prior to Thanksgiving, my husband came to me and he said, I want us for Thanksgiving to put together care packages, drive around San Diego, and hand them out to people in the streets that are in need. And I said, yes, let's do that. I want to do that. It was such a powerful experience that when we were done, he said, I want to do this again for Christmas. And I said, I want to do this every weekend. Not feasible time or from a financial, we can't do it. But here's what we said, we want to do it once a month. So we said for Christmas, we're going to do it again. So we woke up Christmas, we had Christmas Eve with family. And then Christmas morning, we woke up, we put the care packages together and did the same thing, drove around San Diego. And it's not easy. It's not easy to be face to face with people that are in incredible suffering. At the same time, to be doing something that's bringing such joy to them and is relieving that suffering, even if just a bit. And it that that act of doing that gave me that giving gave me such a boost of stuff that I can't even explain, not to mention how connected I felt to my husband in doing that. Like when you look at the person that you're living your life with and you're like, wow, when I met you, I couldn't have imagined us doing this together. But our values are so in alignment. And it was so beautiful to see that connection and to experience that and to be committed to continuing doing this. So that's why I shivered, Mark.
Yeah, thank you. And I just love the point about, giving more than you take. It doesn't have to be financial. It doesn't have to be gigantic. It doesn't have to be build a homeless shelter. It can be as simple as taking somebody a clean, thick pair of socks.
Yeah.
Which I know is in your care package. And so looking for those opportunities to give where we can. And this is where the smiles came in, because she said, if you can't give anything else, give somebody one of your smiles. Look for somebody that's not smiling and give them one of yours. And sometimes that can make a positive impact on the day. Now, sometimes it can make people really wonder what you're up to. That's okay too.
Yeah.
What else? What other thoughts did you have
My
from our
goodness.
discussion with Nancy?
Yeah. She shared some well, I want to go back to how she found her niche that she was going to focus on. And I think when people are thinking, and my mind went here, I was like, wow, it's absolutely brilliant that she connected all the dots. Healthcare is important to her. Women is important to her. Giving is important to her. What are businesses that is a common thread? And that's how she found her focus. That's how she found the niche that she was going to work in. And so I'm spotlighting that again to just say, for those people, I know that there's a lot of entrepreneur people out there that are re-envisioning what they're doing. They're leaving corporate. I know hundreds that are like, there's a I I'm letting go of the W-2 and I'm doing my own. If you haven't found that common thread, sit down and think about what's important to you and do what Nancy did and connect those dots like she did, because that's how she found her people. That's how she found who she was going to be working with long term.
Yeah. And I love that way you put that about connect the dots.
Connect the dots.
Because they're out there. One of the things that I love about the work that I do is that I go out and talk to different companies is just to find out all of the different industries and businesses that are out there.
Yeah.
And so there's always dots to connect.
Mm-hmm. The last thing that I would say is for her logo on her website, I didn't see it. Like I saw it, but not until she described it did I understand what it meant. And so if you look at her logo, this is how she described it. What she had the person create in her logo is how she wanted her clients to feel when they left her office. Hands up in the air, like vibrant, like we did this, or we can do this, or we're gonna do this, or look at what we did. And I think that that's such a beautiful visual. And so I think that, when we think about pushing forward, when we think about being the agent of our own life, what is it that we want to accomplish? What is it that we want to put into the world? What is the vision that we have for what we want to be, who we want to be, how we want our life to be in 5, 10, 15 years from now?
What would make you feel like going into that pose with hands high in the air, where almost a victory celebration? That's a great way to think about what is my focus here. What would make me feel like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I love that logo too.
Yeah. Yeah. And when she was describing it, I was like, oh, I see it. I see it. But I didn't see it until I heard her explain it. Is there anything else for you, Mark?
No, I think we hit the highlights there. Great discussion again, folks. If you haven't listened to that episode, go back and listen to last week's. I think you'll get a lot out of Nancy. You're going to have to keep up because she
Whew.
brings a lot of the energy in. And so go enjoy that episode, and enjoy your week infusing compassion into the world.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Infuse Compassion podcast. If you enjoyed the conversation, please share a review and like the podcast so other compassionators can join us. Until next time, let's all do something each day to infuse compassion into the world. For more information on our guests, see the show notes. For more information on Mark and Amy, go to infusecompassion.com.